the audience actually groaned. It was so bad that they were, whoa! and it's
nice
quite
to feel
legendary,
supported,
quite
isn't it?
legendary that I actually broke the fourth wall and said, well, I didn't write this crap.
Hey there, it's Connor Muller and welcome to Let's Chat Showbiz. This podcast is all about Australian showbiz. We're talking the glitz, the glam, the tough times and everything in between. Let's get this show on the road. Today we are joined by not one but two of Australia's leading ladies. They both have an extensive career in Australian showbiz, from television to stage to cabaret and so much more. I'm so excited to welcome Rhonda Burchmore and Genevieve Lemon.
Hey, Connor.
Now, you're both currently starring in Sister Act. I'll start with you, Genevieve. You play Mother Superior. Tell me about that. What's that like?
I love it. I love it. I spent 13 years being educated by the nuns. I never had a male teacher in 13 years. I'm very old. That's goes back a long way. I don't think you'd find many schools like that these days. However, we did have sex education with the priests. That's not a joke. I mean, the nights of sex ed, which happened in year 9 and probably again in year 11, I don't remember. The priest came in to give us sex education, which these days is a little ironic. But at the time, even looking back, it's like, what were they thinking? These famously celibate men giving sex education to anybody, let alone a bunch of randy schoolgirls.
Wow, I never knew that, Jen. Wow.
Yeah, I know. It's mad, isn't it?
And now, Rhonda, your character, it's quite different to what people have seen Rhonda Burchmore as in the past. Tell me about that.
Well, Sister Mary Lazarus, what can I say, Connor? There's no bling. Oh, well, there's a bit in the finale, but it's probably the plainest Rhonda's ever been. No leg, no high heels, no hair, minimal makeup. Yeah, it's pretty plain, pretty much. And just even the character is very unglamorous. I kind of always played those leggy kind of showgirly kind of glamorous women, but Lazarus is nothing like that, which is actually really quite enjoyable, and it's quite empowering to be jumping around with your flat shoes in something that you could have a 5-course meal in, and you can be as daggy and as dicky as you like. It's like me after too many drinks at a party. Yes.
Fantastic. And it's got a great cast, and obviously you guys and people like Casey Donovan, Sally Bourne, and a lot of younger upcoming performers. How do you guys go with working with the cast as a whole?
We love it. It's a big spread. I might say, for those of you who would think this surprising, I'm the eldest member of the cast, and we go down to early 20s, and males and females, and all sorts. It's a great cast and a great crew.
Very diverse, very different backgrounds, a lot of them. Different voices, different looks physically. It's not like an ensemble or a chorus as we used to know it, that everyone had to be a certain height and weight. Everyone is very, very different, and everyone shines in this in their own right. And I think that's kind of the magic of what I could only imagine a bunch of nuns in a convent would be. And socially we all get on like a house on fire. It's probably the happiest company in general.
It's such a happy company, but it's also an extremely happy show. Yeah. No one is actually taking the piss, as they say. These women, these nuns are very pious and they're true believers. And it's kind of lovely to think there's kind of no cynicism from them. They really, even though they have little snaps at each other, like any group of people will, particular, dare say, group of women, they all are there for the common cause, which is love of God, love of humanity, and the way the score is written, it's joyful. So the audience, no matter what attitude they walk in the door with, by the end they're just cheering for this music, which is so uplifting. And It's written by Alan Menken, who everybody knows from Little Mermaid,
Aladdin,
Little Shop of Horrors. He's written all these extraordinary scores, which are, yes, they're formulaic. They're his formula, and it's beautiful, and it works. And it's the sort of music that you hear for the first time, and you think, "Oh, I know this," but of course you don't.
Yeah,
you really don't. It doesn't have the music from the movie. Which, for those of you who think it's a huge score in the movie, it's not. If you have another look at the film, A, it's not as funny as we all remember, and B, it has very little music in it. Famously, it has I Will Follow Him and My God, which we don't have in our show because it's Alan Menken. You know, you don't ask Picasso to draw a painting for you and just say, "Oh, we're just going to put in a few paintings here by somebody else in the corner." That's not how it works. He writes a score which has a beginning and a middle and an end, and it's perfectly accompanying the journey of this show.
Yeah, and I think some people, you know, you read before we even signed on, the publicist said that's the biggest thing we're going to have to fight is the song issue. But I think it's much cleverer. It's a complete, unique. The lyrics are just wonderful.
Yeah. And in fact, they really pushed it, didn't they? They said, please mention, and they gave us all the little names and the things we had to remember when we were talking about the music, because they don't want to disappoint people.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody who thinks they're going to come along and see My God or I Will Follow Him, they're not going to see that, but they're going to see an entirety of a score, which is
100%.
just beguiling.
Yeah.
And a rap.
Hilarious.
And a rap.
And a rap.
I love it.
Sister Mary Lazarus.
Who would have thought? Yeah, a rap it's celibate sister, but I'm hot as a blister. So hang on to your rosary. I mean, it's great. It's great.
So clever.
Very clever.
Yes, it's very good. And you guys have both been touring for some time now. How do you guys find touring and being away from your family? Obviously, you've done it for quite some time in your careers, but
many times.
Many times. It's tricky. It's relentless after a while doing the 8 shows a week. I mean, it's joyful, but there's also days that you go, oh my gosh, this is really hard getting out of bed. I wish I was sitting at home walking the dogs in the garden. But that's what we sign on to do.
And luckily, we both love our dogs, but we love our husbands too, and they're at home looking after the dogs, so it works out quite well.
Yeah.
We're very lucky in that sense, because what would you do if you had to leave your dog? It'd be awful.
Yeah, or, you know, mine, I can't take on tour as, what do you call those assistance dogs? That's
2 standard poodles.
I've got 2.
They're my assistants. I need
they're a
them.
guide dog or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's as I said, there's the downside, but we know when we sign on what we're, and you know, you go, well, this is a 9-month contract. That financially is very attractive. I mean, I do and produce a lot of my own shows. This, for me, is kind of, you go, phew, I'm not taking that financial risk this time for the marketing, to produce, to do all of it.
And they book all our accommodation, our flights. We don't have to worry about any of those things.
So it's a much nicer, less stressful in that way than doing your own thing.
Yeah. And in the show, what's your favourite number?
Well, I'll start here. My favourite number is My Friend Here. Well, I've got a couple, but I think there's so many. When Jen does Behind These Walls, it's
such a beautiful song. That's the duet I do with Casey at the beginning. It's a gorgeous song.
And it's and all the whole choir of the nuns who hasn't been able to sing a note can suddenly sing harmonies in the back.
But, magic of theatre.
But the lighting, how it's all lit, and it's very goosebumpy. It kind of sets up the show so beautifully, what it's about and what we're about, and you know, Mother Superior. I'm not a religious person, but I get a very spiritual. That's the one number in the show that is really, really, really beautiful for me. I mean, and there's all the, you know,
there's so many fun
stuff,
and fun
but
numbers.
that'd be my favourite.
Yeah.
With the
Yeah. In rehearsal, I must say, I loved the boys singing "The Lady in the Long Black Dress,"
Yes,
which is when the
hilarious.
three crims talk about how are we going to get into a convent, and they think they're going to seduce the nuns, and it's just ridiculous. And
Hilarious.
their grasp of religion is not great, but they think they're going to get her some altar wine and dine her, and she's going to
Come through.
yeah, ridiculous. It's a very funny song. And also Monty's song, the young nun, Sister Mary Robert, has a moment of doubt, and it's very important. And I think it's really clever that, like I said, we're showing these women, excuse me, in their faith and in their very solid belief. But this young woman is having a moment of doubt and wondering, should she leave? Should she leave with Dolores? Because Dolores has been this like a beacon, like a multicolored mirror ball walking into their lives, literally. And and she's having a moment which it's not quite resolved in the show, but she does stay till the end. And you just wonder about her. But who wouldn't have doubts? These women have devoted their lives to. They don't think it's a concept. They think it's God. That's what they truly believe. But there are moments of doubt. There has to be. Otherwise, it's more of The Sound of Music than our show.
Yeah. And that number too, you mentioned Mencken, that's like the 11 o'clock number. That is the big ballad of the show, and Monty, Sophie Montague.
Such an extraordinary talent.
Wonderful, and that's their first show, professional show. So
Very
extraordinary.
exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. We've got a couple of those in the cast.
Yeah.
First show. It's just lovely.
Yeah.
Now, you both have quite a big career in theatre. I'll start with you, Rhonda. In 1985, you did Sugar Babes, which you were invited to tour on London's West End. What was that like? Tell me about that.
Sugar Babies was, I'd done a few before that. They're playing our song with Jackie Weaver and John Waters and Song and Dance. Sugar Babies was the one that kind of set me on my way as the first lead role in a musical. Extraordinary show. Gary McDonald was in the show, a wonderful man called Eddie Bracken. If your listeners Google him, he was one of the finest comic film actors of the 40s, worked with Marilyn Monroe, Judy Garland. I had the gift of working with him, and to have someone like that at the beginning of your career. So I did this show in Australia, and then I was invited by the American team producing it and the director, all the creatives, to go to London with it. So it was a big deal. At that stage in my early 20s, I thought, oh, that's just how it goes. You do a show here and you're reviewed well and they love you here, and they then pick you up and pop you on a plane to London. Only to find out it's not always like that. But it was pinch yourself moment to be on the stage every night with Mickey Rooney and Ann Miller, who would play the leads over there, because, I'd watch them as kids. As a kid, always in those incredible movies. Ann Miller in Easter Parade and Kiss Me Kate and Mickey Rooney.
And Ann Miller so often quoted and shown in any shows that show the gamut of Hollywood. She's always in the clips of the tap dancing, extraordinary
dancing and just an incredible performer, and she was that's what I look at now, that I'm getting up there. But she was, Mickey was in his 70s, she was in her late 60s, and they never missed a show, 8 shows a week, and she was physically still doing at that stage. And I guess that's maybe one of those things that I go, well, this is what these people before us did, and that was never I think I'll take a rest day today. That wasn't in their DNA. They just went out, and the work ethic, especially Anne, to watch that was like breathtakingly
inspirational.
Yeah, and inspirational.
And you worked with live birds, is that right? On stage?
Oh yeah. It was the most extraordinary thing I've ever done. I had as many as 18 live pigeons. And I had to sing a song like Julie Andrews type of thing. It was called Warm and Willing. Show me that you're warm and willing, make each moment thrilling. And as I was a Greek statue in a park, that was the thing. And then all the orchestra swell up, and then one by one, the pigeons would be released from the wings, and I would remove a veil, and they would perch all over my body. I had the chorus, I had the head, the titty one, titty two, and the star of the show was Fanny, and and I had to sing with 18 pigeons pooing all over me, fornicating on certain nights on top of my head, because they always go for the highest spot. And they'd be all going, and then one would push another one off, and then claw me down my face, and then it used to bring the house down, and I had this wonderful relationship with those birds. I know it sounds weird, but I got on with them better than a lot of the girls in the show, you know.
You don't have a piece of film of that, do you?
Oh, yes.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
You've shown me.
There's an edited version of it. They decided to do it on the midday show on Ray Martin. So where the Americans went, you've got to be kidding, you took the birds out of their environment to a television studio. The Australian people didn't realise that they could have gone.
They're trained just for...
They were just trained for that, not to go...
Yeah, right.
...to make guest appearances. But they all came back.
Wow.
And I have the best story. When I did miss one show, she wasn't very nice. My understudy, she was desperate to go on. I remember desperate. She was paying me money, just go off. And I say, I'll never go off. Anyway, they decided to dry clean my costume, my bodysuit.
Yeah.
And she, because there was only, and the birds wouldn't come anywhere near her. They didn't like the smell of her or the dry cleaning. So they did a U-turn.
Did they find a girl to be your understudy that was the same shape and height as you?
Well,
that would not be easy.
She had little feet. I'm not going to mention her name because she is still alive, but she didn't quite look like me, but she was adequate. Does that sound nasty? But only because she wasn't a very nice person. I thought that the birdies, they didn't want to go to her in the number, so when she was doing this to land, they all just they went back out again. So she was left with a bald eagle. No wonder.
The unpopular statue.
Yeah. Anyway, but it was fun.
Yeah. Now, Genevieve, in 2008, you starred in Billy Elliot, the musical, which you were awarded a Helpman Award for. But you also went to the West End too with that, is that right?
I did. It was one of almost the opposite end of the career. I was, well past, the centre part of my career, I guess. Or maybe I was right in the middle of, I don't know. We don't know where it's going to end, do we?
Well, 2-8.
Right.
That's that's 20.
It's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And opening night came, and all the English creatives were there, and Elton John and his husband David, and they were all saying, "Oh, we're definitely going to put you somewhere else in the world. You'll work for us again." And I said, "Oh, thank you," and never thought it would happen, and it did happen. They were going to take me to Chicago to open it there and potentially do the tour from there. But, the American whole deal fell through. We thought we had a deal with them, and then it turned out we didn't. So I ended up in London.
Well, which is pretty great.
Which was so great. In fact, it lasted longer than the Chicago thing. So I'm really glad we got to go to London. My little girl went into school in London, and my husband... we had a great time.
Yeah.
We really had a great time. So I was very, very lucky. And I ended up doing the show for 3 years altogether, many shows. So almost 1,000, I think.
Wow.
It was great. I loved the show so much. I love kids, and sorry, am I banging that microphone? I really, really love kids. I trained to be a teacher, as did Rhonda Burchmore when we
I
lived.
know we have so many similarities.
Yeah. But I never ended up teaching. But I got that qualification. And so when they handed me Billy Elliot, I was like, it was a dream show for me to be working with children, to be doing an Elton John score and getting to sing some lovely numbers. I did love it up until now.
Smashed it. You did. You
probably
did.
my favourite show.
Yeah.
Up till now.
Yep.
What's been your favourite role to play on theatre, on stage?
Oh, look, it's really boring, but I normally just say what I'm doing because I just love everything so much. And I really genuinely love Mother Superior. I know people have varying experiences with their childhood nuns, put it that way. I loved mine, most of them. I mean, I turned out to be a horrible kid and I was really mean to some of them. I was a little cow.
Yeah.
Truly. I hope they prayed for my everlasting soul because as it happens all these years later, I have a great deal of affection for them. And there's one in particular, Sister Mary John, who was our second grade teacher, who was just so delightful. And in my head, if ever my mind strays or I've got a moment of thinking, what's the next line? I just put her picture in my mind and it comes.
Yeah, wow.
Comes without fail.
And it's not the first time you've played a nun, though, have you? You've played a nun before?
I have.
Yeah.
I have. I played in a beautiful play called Folk, I should say, a British play, and I played a nun who was not in the habit. So she was just in civvies, as most nuns are these days, except for very, very exclusive orders. Most nuns are just in civvies with a little crucifix on their collar or something like that. And I was one of those, and we sang beautiful British folk songs. It was a glorious little show, three-hander, beautiful play.
Folk.
Okay. Really lovely. But I think that's my only other nun.
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
And now, Rhonda, you did Mamma Mia as well. Tell me about Mamma Mia.
Original Australian cast.
Yeah, that whole experience was great because it was, as Jen said, it was, we actually got it here in Australia before it even went to Broadway.
Oh, wow.
With Philida Lloyd, who was directing it, she enabled Anne Wood, who was playing Donna, and Lara Mulcahy, Rosie. The three of us would go in a room and we create all our business. So often everything is coloured by numbers with musicals. If they've been done on Broadway or West End, the creatives come back and say, you've got to follow that exactly. Whereas it wasn't the case. We had a bit of free reign, which was great.
Could I just say, excuse me interrupting, the same thing happened with Billy Elliot. They created it for the West End and then they brought it to Australia with the absolute intention of getting everything right that they couldn't, irritatingly never got right in the first place. So it's the same situation. They tinker with it, they fix things up that they've always got on their nerves, and then they took it to Broadway hoping they would have the perfect show by then.
Yeah.
So
well, with the same story, and funny, some of the choreography and the business that we created in that room made it into the film.
Yeah, wow.
With Meryl and those people. Yeah, it was a great experience. It was probably the easiest, well, the most, this is fun, but that was ridiculously fun, being in platform boots at my height and Lycra, going on and doing a few killer numbers and just being an absolute, dancing queen and Chickatita and Does Your Mother Know You're Out, and it was like one big party.
Yeah.
I'd leave the dressing room. I got on very well with Lara, who was my buddy in there, and we would giggle all the way from the dressing room and not even wait we'd just time it perfectly that we'd be still giggling, walking on stage after. Yeah, it was fun. The the management weren't thrilled about that. But, well, I mean, and it made it fresh because we'd go, whoa. Yeah, it was kind of it was controlled, but it was fresh. Every show was, that was fun.
Yeah. And just going back to Sister Act quickly, had you guys worked together before Sister
Never.
Act?
No, I'd just been a big fan.
And we had met. Do you remember where we met? It was Adelaide.
Really?
Well, what were we?
It was 93.
Oh, would have been Hot Shoe Shuffle.
It was backstage of Hot Shoe Shuffle, which my friend Max Lambert was
our friend,
music direction. And he told me all about you. I knew you so well already from telly and all those amazing, the Bert Newtons, the Ray Martins, the Mike Walshes, everything that you had done.
Don Lane.
All those, the most, popular of guests for all those shows. I wonder why, because she's bloody naughty and she's hilarious. And, and so, that was where I met you.
Well, 90s, Hot Shoe, that was a really beautiful show.
Oh, my God, that was a great show. Such a great, all tap dancing.
All tap dancing.
Fantastic. And one female amongst all these gorgeous young men.
And the first 7 boys, they were all, not that most of my friends are gay, but the 7 boys were all straight. Seven tap dancing boys.
And plus David Atkins, who's also straight.
Yeah, just short, but straight.
And a great dancer.
And a great gutsy. I mean, when you look at that, he produced that, himself, and he had a vision and just
went on and on and on from there, hasn't he?
With him and Max, and they did,
They did the Sydney Olympics as well.
Yeah. And all overseas. He's now into big, but doesn't do music. Well, he doesn't perform anymore, but big events.
Yeah. He's extraordinary. That was such a great show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry you would have missed it. It was just brilliant.
For my time.
But it was, they did a revival, which was not, I don't care who listens, it was not the same. The chemistry of that original gang.
And the excitement of the whole thing. It was.
Well, Dean Perry doing the choreography with David.
Adam Garcia was there.
Adam Garcia, yeah.
Sheldon Perry,
Kevin Coyne. You're good.
Yeah, I remember them. I remember it so well. I saw it 3 times.
And that was the first show in its entirety, first Australian show ever invited to London's West End. So
wow.
That was a big deal.
I just remembered we came to closing night in Adelaide and we must have had house seats. I was in my little group cast of Williamson that we were touring, and Nancy Hayes was further down the row. And at the end, both she and I were standing and applauding, and she just looked at me and all the people sitting down, and she said, "They don't know. They don't know what they've just. They don't know how
they don't
this
get
is
it.
amazing what they've just seen."
Yeah.
And people just, they don't.
Yeah.
They don't respond.
Yeah.
Necessarily how you want them to sometimes, I guess.
And that too, talk about physicality at the boys. I mean, I had to tap dance as well, but the boys, the level, the skill, the speed, the power,
the macho-ness of it all. They went on and did so much with it, didn't they?
Yeah, and 8 shows a week. But all of that in London, that was like the hardest physical show I think I've ever been involved in, for sure. And them too. We were just.
Your legs must have been sticks, except for all those muscles.
Oh, that was a very high-cut leotard, I can tell you. David's, used to come up to my hip. He's very short. He was a short, but that was the whole thing.
Yeah.
He was short as I was tall. We played twins. We were, because it was the 7 Tap brothers, and I was his sister. His twin sister, so that was the. It was a bit like Danny DeVito and Arnie
Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, it was very funny, physical comedy
hilarious.
too.
Now, I wanted to talk to you about Prisoner, Genevieve, but before we do, Rhonda, you actually auditioned for Prisoner, is that right?
I've been told, I did. Someone wrote me a role.
Yes, so I went to a prisoner event last year.
Well, you could tell
and
me because it's a long.
Coral Druin.
I remember Coral.
She said that and I could be a little bit wrong.
No,
here, so
I've had
Coral,
an interview.
don't come get me. But she said that the role of Rita Connors, played by Glenda Linscott, in the end, apparently you went into audition for her, and they had written the role, and she was going to break out and tap dance. Apparently, she was going to break out and tap dance. They'd written it for you. And you auditioned, they thought, yep, we'll give it for Rhonda. And then apparently Glenda Linscott came in and they went, oh, hang on, we've got to change it. And then Glenda Linscott ended up getting the role, of course.
Yeah.
But apparently you did audition for her.
I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
I remember Coral just saying to me that they wanted me. And I think it was because Glenda, who was the girl? Glenda never ended up tap dancing. They had this thing that she was. I do remember Coral telling me that she was just but she used to amuse, which would have been a lot of fun, break out in tap dance and entertain the
that would have been hilarious.
Inmates. And they changed the role completely.
Yeah.
And I think her name was Bertha.
Rita the Beater.
Oh, Rita the Beater. Well,
close.
I thought it was Bertha the Beast.
They might have changed it. They might have changed it.
I think they probably did, but but I never did. Yeah, I mean, it would have been very exciting to see which way things would have gone.
That's right.
Well, I believe Glenda was after me,
yes.
And you probably know the show better than I do. I was in year 5 of filming, so I was there for the year of 84, and they were scraping the bottom of the barrel for storylines, so there were often projects that the women got, or let's raise money for sick children, so we'll put on a concert. We had Joy Westmore, who you will remember from all those shows that we talked about earlier, who was an old, practically vaudevillian, I imagine, although probably not that old. But she was teaching the women to tap dance.
Yes.
In one of the dining room scenes or whatever it was, the rec room.
The rec room. Yeah.
Speaking of singing and backing vocals, Mrs. B. Yeah. How about a demo of that tap routine again, eh?
Oh no, not now. All right, Judy. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Back again. I don't think I could. No. I've got far too much to do at the moment.
See, you can date everything from what current events were going on at the time because they somehow managed to weave it into the storyline. I had a pet cockroach called Ozzy too, because that was after the America's Cup.
Oh, here he is. How are you, Ozzy, me old mate? Gets really excited before a big race.
He's a tough little mongrel, isn't he?
Yeah.
Good strong legs. You can see he's got spirit.
It's only a bloody cockroach, gee. Oh, yeah, well, you collected a few bucks on him.
Oh, stakes get really high then.
Yeah, we've had up to 50 bucks going here at a time. Hey, listen, you wouldn't say anything to the screws, would you? They don't know anything about this.
Don't worry, Mal. We don't talk to screws either.
You had Cliff Young, who came in to do a marathon with the women to raise money for something, because that was when he did his thing.
The shuffle.
So the people listening won't even know who that is. But it doesn't matter. My point is they'd just pick anything and do a storyline about it, which were always my storylines because my character was... She's not a toughie. She's the opposite of a toughie. She was, I used to say I did 3 roles for Grundy's in about 10 years' time, and they were all the same character. They all dropped things, they gossip, or they overhear something that they weren't meant to overhear, and that was my character in all 3 shows. Young Doctors, Prisoner and Neighbours.
Young Doctors, gosh.
Young Doctors, that was my first paid job. But Prisoner is certainly the most fun I've ever had in a television studio. And so much so, Connor, that I was threatened with the sack twice, very seriously, on 2 occasions, because I only remember the second time when you find the studio completely empty and you're standing there going, something doesn't feel right about this, and the director coming onto the set and saying, if you don't stop making everybody laugh. You're wasting so much time. I'm going to tell the producer to get rid of you. And I was crying. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. But Betty Bobbitt and all
Betty
those people,
Bobbitt.
they knew how to make everyone laugh
Yeah,
without getting into trouble. But I was an idiot. I mean, if the kids did that now in our rehearsal, we would be furious. But at the time, I just thought I was hilarious and
Probably well, you would have been.
got into trouble all the time.
And you worked with, you mentioned there, Betty Bobbitt and people like Anne Phelan, Maggie Kirkpatrick, Elspeth Ballantyne.
Such great women. Such great women. Betty
Colette,
Bobbitt,
was she in there?
No, I replaced Colette in that she finished, I think, a year or two before me. So they always wanted to keep that sort of Colette character. Door. They wanted to emulate her. She had the soft toys. So people say to me, I remember you. You're the one that always had the soft toys. And I said, no, that was Colette Mann. But I was that replacement of that cliche character. It's kind of meant to be adorable. I don't think anybody thought I was adorable. In fact, I was doing another show with Max Lambert once, and at interval they gave us, it was just a cabaret with he and I, and at interval they gave us dinner, and we were just sitting there chatting, and I thought, here's a go. I'll just Google myself, what it says about me in Prisoner, and it said, this is the most irritating character. Why don't they just kill her off? She's boring. If I hear her voice another time, I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And I was just peeing myself laughing. And I said to Max, well, there's our second act. I just kept reading quotes out to the audience before I do the next song. It was absolutely hilarious. I didn't know. Of course, we didn't have that back in the day.
Right. Yeah.
Thank God. I think it must be horrible for young actors. Because if someone decides they don't like you, then suddenly there's a gang of people who will always try and say
trolls.
Horrible things.
Oh, they will.
I'm so glad we didn't have that.
And you worked closely with Maxine Klibingaitis in that, who played Bobby.
Maxine and Betty were two of my best friends, and Maggie Dents, who was Bev the Beast when I was in it. The three of my closest friends. Two of them have now gone. I can't believe that Betty's gone, and Maxine went only
nearly 2 years ago.
Almost 2 years ago, exactly, isn't it?
Days, yeah.
Yeah. I'm the godmother of her beautiful, beautiful Zane, and she was just a joy in my life from beginning to end. In fact, the day I started on Prisoner, Maxine had a day off. In fact, I think she had the week off. She was filming in Sydney. So her storyline of escaping all was my first week, and everybody who walked in would say, why is it so quiet in here? Oh, Maxine's away. And then they'd look at me and they'd go, you are going to love Maxine. That's beginning and end of it, and they were all right.
You're right.
It was just, we just made each other laugh so much. We just had the best time.
Yeah.
And like I said, Betty Bobbitt was the naughtiest of all. You'd have a dining room scene and they'd be going, okay, camera rolling, sound set. And Betty would pick up the salt and pepper and go, it's for you. Just when you had to say the first line and you have to do something with the salt and pepper as you were saying your first line. She was the naughtiest and the best. But Maxine was an extraordinary talent.
She was.
Who, just didn't quite get the management or the breaks that she could have. She worked quite a lot through the 80s in television, and she also made a film, Candy Ragentag, which introduced us to Patsy Stephen, who turned out to be a beautiful friend as well. And, just really a good woman, very nutty, and got very, very nutty towards the end.
Yeah.
Just so many people, including your mum, I believe, very, very dear friend.
Yeah.
So many. And, she had so much left to give. It was such a shame that it ended the way it did, and when it did, it was too sad.
Yes, definitely. Now, moving on, Rhonda, in 1982, you did the pirate movie. Tell me about that.
Where the willows quiver, passing where the willows quiver by the ever-rolling Mabel!
Oh, let her be. Who needs her? She's a disgrace to the noble name of Stanley. Just look at her. I wouldn't wear a dress like that to bed.
I think that's the whole idea.
Wash your mouth out. What is she looking for? Love? Ha. Well, she'll have a long wait. She's the youngest, and by noble custom, the eldest must marry first, which makes me first.
Me second.
And me third.
Geez, we'll all be 50. Let us gaily tread the measure, make the most of fleeting leisure.
Well, that's right at the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
Absolutely, before I'd done anything. I played Kate. It turned out to be this still quite a cult, the old pirate movie.
Let me ask, is it based on Pirates of Penzance?
Yeah.
Or, oh, it is kind of the
Loosely,
story, more or less.
And with different, I mean, we do a bit of climbing over Rocky Mountain, but there was new songs and
Yes.
Linda Nagel was in that, Ted Hamilton, Maggie Kirk,
And Kirsty
McNichol.
McNichol.
And what was his name? Christopher Atkins.
Aiken. Blonde curls.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big heartthrobs from the 70s.
Yeah, well,
Both of them.
Christy doesn't perform. I think she had a breakdown and she doesn't, that was her last kind of big thing. And I don't know what he did. He was working in a petrol station on the Gold Coast, married an Australian girl, but I don't
Really?
think, I don't know. He tried to make a comeback. But, interesting times, extraordinary times, and that it's become a cult with a lot of people, that movie.
Can I tell a little aside to your listeners that Rhonda Burchmore has an online show called Rhonda's Rewind,
Yeah.
which you can find on YouTube.
Yeah.
And there is an episode on the pirate movie which gives you a really good.
Yeah.
I mean, if it doesn't make you hunt down the movie and watch the movie, I don't know what else would. It's a great show that she did during COVID to have a project.
Yeah.
It was brilliant.
Oh, thanks, Jen.
Well, I'm glad you got all those clips and everything.
Yeah, it was my COVID project with.
But it's really worthwhile because you've got shows like you've got. Have you got one about all the Tonight shows that you used to do to introduce people to the Don Lanes and the Burts and people like
Mike
that?
Walsh, all of that. Yeah.
And then this one, there's an episode when they did This Is Your Life about Rudy.
Yeah.
And it's an extraordinary show.
Yeah, that
it's
one.
really, really good.
Because there's so many of those big stars. And just the people are no longer here. That for me is a real, because my family, my direct family, mum, dad and sister have all gone, and mother-in-law, they're all in there, and you go, oh, wow. And not to mention Mickey Rooney and Ann Miller and Anthony Newley, all those people.
Extraordinary people.
But I'm so glad I did that. And James Carroll, wonderful, he edited it, and it was just, we had time to find those old clips, to find those old photos and put it all together. So
it's a really great resource, I think.
Thank you. It's great that it's now there because
and there's one about the jungle as well.
One about the jungle, one about all sorts of, one about Easter Parade.
Easter Parade,
all sorts of things. Yeah.
You mentioned the jungle there. I was going to ask you next about the jungle. In 2020, you braved the jungle. Tell me about that.
It was one of those shows that I'd been invited to be on it before, and my husband said he was going to divorce me if I went on that. It was the most puerile, ridiculously stupid show he's ever seen. And I watched it. It's one of those you kind of can't.
Addictive. Yeah.
And I watched my mates, Anthony Collier, I watched so many mates in there do it. And I'd ask them after, just away from the cameras, what was it like? Do you regret it? And not one of them said that they regretted it.
Yeah.
It was challenging. It was hard.
I imagine it feels like an achievement. You know, you did.
Survived.
You did.
And I was the underdog because a lot of those people on there now are reality stars with zillions of followers. I was kind of like the underdog that they didn't expect to go as far as I did.
Runner up.
Yeah, and it was tough because one has to be very happy with one's own company because there's no music, there's no any kind of media, no telephone, nothing.
Couldn't do but you couldn't sing.
And
you weren't allowed to even just hum something.
You could only sing something if you knew, and I had done, fortunately, a little bit of research.
Yeah.
It had to be
prior to
before 1890 or
Oh, so you couldn't sing?
all
nothing.
those 1890
Yeah,
pop
right.
songs you made famous.
There was, it's Danny Boy. There were a couple of songs that, Amazing Grace, Look for the Silver Lining, that were really, really old songs because of the royalty thing.
Yeah.
And even when the hardest thing was, even though it went to television to air for maybe 2 hours every night, we were filmed 24/7. There was no time
that you were
that
off.
you could kind of go, oh, that person over there is, because the whole campsite wouldn't be, with 14 beds, much bigger than this room. That's how we were, like beds this close.
Yeah, wow.
So farty poo, or like, if you could hear people snore, you could. It was very tight. And if someone was giving you the irrits, they wouldn't
just
shut
had to
up.
deal with
you
it.
had to deal with it. Yeah.
What about Snooky Pookie? Was anybody sneaking off into the trees together to bit of Snooky Pookie?
Good question.
Snooky Pookie. Well, you wouldn't go in those trees because there were
Too many
baboons and snakes and
Bloody hell.
lions and but yeah, they were all. We were in the jungle at night outside. No, Charlotte had the thing with Ryan, but I think that was just for show. They got in their camp stretcher.
Oh.
and
But everybody else was round. My God.
No, they used to pretend to get under their sleeping bag, and it was like, oh, please. And then when they did get out, it was all pretty much.
Yeah, it just
fizzled
away.
Yeah.
So Genevieve, would you go in the jungle?
Absolutely not.
Really?
No.
You
I
wouldn't?
can't eat any of those things. I'm a vegetarian.
Okay, yeah. Right.
And I don't eat eyes. I specify that when I say I'm a vegetarian. No, I don't.
What about impala anus?
In what?
I had to have impala anus.
Impala anus. I could make an exception. I'm joking. As if I would eat anything belonging to an impala.
Like, it was every kind of animal you could think of. The worst, like their testicles, you had to eat raw.
Their
maggots. The hooves.
Please, God, no. Apart from that, I couldn't do it. The first thing they made you do was jump off
off the highest peak of South Africa. That was
no, not for all the tea in China or all the sick babies that you saved.
Right.
I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
I thought that was the end of, like, when you're going to go, that was really close.
Yeah.
I thought I was really a goner that day.
Absolutely couldn't do it.
When I'm actually above the clouds.
Was that on the treadmill, or was that?
The treadmill.
The treadmill.
Yeah. The clouds are below me, and it was very. And then
Forget about it.
The worst thing was that they let me after they shoot it, because when it goes to air, there she is, and there she. They left me hanging on the hook like an old dead fish. And I was bashing into the rocks, and then they finally dragged me back up to the. It was just frightening. Never want to do that bit again.
Bloody hell.
What's been the highlight of your career, Genevieve?
Working with Rhonda.
That's it.
We've had the best time.
We've had the best time. We're having the best time.
We are. What's going to happen the day after we finish?
Well,
we already call each other other's wives.
You got to do your own show or something.
We have to do.
We have to get our husbands together because they might have a duel or something.
That's it. Well, and the dogs too.
And the dog.
For me, and I, without a word, just because she's sitting there, and I've told her, Genevieve, our friendship is the highlight of my time in Sister Act. I mean, Genevieve is magnificent doing what she does out there. But I'm just saying what I will take away from it. I'll go, I'm not sad really about when the show comes to an end because there'll be other projects, but I'll have this one as a dear friend for life.
Yeah.
And hopefully we will do, whether it be out there to the universe, a sitcom or another
Movie.
musical. Or
Let's think big, babe.
a movie. I know. We could be the new Kath and Kim. Well, who knows? We could be the...
Moles Incorporated.
Yeah, two dykes on bikes. What's the guys that go around the country on their motorbike? The cooking show?
Two fat men.
The hairy.
Oh, the hairy something, yeah. Hairy bikers.
Hairy bikers. We could be the...
Where we could. We could.
Yeah, a bit of a shade.
You never know. You know, they reckon older women are the biggest ticket buyers for cinema. So I keep saying we've got to think big and
for
make
musicals too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think there's something very special.
Yeah.
In our sense of humour as well as it's very...
We call each other Moley. I'm from the Sydney's Northern Beaches, so that's where we get the term mole, M-O-L-E, and we're moles forever.
Yeah.
Sister Mary Mole. Mother Superior Mole and...
Muffy Mole.
Muffy Mole.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Who is the most famous person you've met?
The famous... I mean, I've met and performed for Bill Clinton. Gosh, there's a few that we could... Bette Midler. I don't know. I don't know. There's lots that I got to meet when I was working with Anne and Mickey, and because they...
Did you meet the Queen?
I met the Queen.
Did you have one of those lineups after the show sort of thing?
No. No, I haven't met the Queen. I didn't meet the Queen, but I met and performed for Princess Diana 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Seven.
Wow.
7
That's
times.
great.
Yeah, she was quite extraordinary because she's nearly my height.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
She would be.
Very, very tall and the most exquisite blue eyes. And that was that. And she loved tap dancing.
Oh.
But I guess, I mean, depends what fame, you know.
Well,
but
that's right. What was
known,
yeah.
my goodness. I mean, and no longer with us. I guess it would be Princess Diana.
Yeah, wow. Wow.
I met the Queen.
Oh, yeah.
And I met Elton.
Ooh.
That was pretty nice.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah.
You meet, yeah.
Elton John said to me on the opening night of Billy Elliot in Sydney, he said, I feel very lucky to be doing this.
Oh,
and I just thought, what an amazing thing that after everything he'd done, including creating the show, he would say something like that. And that's how I feel. That's how I've always felt in any show that I've done. I just feel lucky to be here, which doesn't mean I don't think I bring it. I know I've got talent and I know some people appreciate that talent, and that's great. But I do feel lucky every time.
Have you been in shows, though, that you go, oh, this is a dog?
Not that many, but just a few that I just think, oh, the magic wasn't there, you know, and the magic usually is there. The magic usually comes from somewhere. God knows where, and that's why it's magic, you know.
But no, not necessarily. But I've been in shows that the cast and the company have been great, but the show's a dog.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like polishing a turd. There is nothing you can do with just such a
bad material. No.
Yeah,
and even sometimes with good material, something just doesn't, the magic doesn't come. And you just feel from the audience, you just think something's not right here, something's not working. It's so hard.
I remember I did this show called Respect. And
was it about Aretha?
No, it was the musical journey of women. It was just titled.
Oh,
we did that number.
Okay.
It was like a menopause but it was the musical journey of women.
Right.
The same producers as that, and it starred Eleanor Roccabaro.
Such a great singer.
As a 16-year-old. She was Lucy Durack, Belinda Wollaston, and Danny Matthews, who's now in Superstar, and I played like the kind of teacher figure of these young girls that wanted to be in musical theatre. God, and I had to show them and sing through with them from early music, 1900s through to Respect. You know, all the Empower songs. But God, the script was so bad, and we did all that. I Will Survive, and I Will Survive was the big finish.
Yeah.
And I got to the end of doing the last wind up, and the audience actually groaned. It was so bad that they were and it's
nice
quite
to feel supported, isn't it?
Legendary that I actually broke the fourth wall and said, "Well, I didn't write this crap." At the start, you asked Mitchell Butel, Cameron Mitchell, I didn't, don't blame me, I didn't write this crap. And the whole audience just cheered. And like, I had them on side, then they'd been like, oh. And when we got to that, oh, and then I was so pissed off with the audience, and I just told them so too. You can imagine me doing it. Don't blame me. I didn't write this crap. And the poor girls and the producers were horrified. But anyway, I don't care. It was crap.
Now, at the end of each episode, I asked the guest to ask a question for the next guest. Our last guest was Thomas Jaspers, who you know, obviously. And he said, and you can both answer this, what advice would you give to people who want to get into the industry?
Be prepared to wait. Be prepared to hang in. And I say this to my daughter, who started acting as a young child, well, say 13, I think. And then things fell off a little bit for her. And I just keep saying, there's no reason for you not to get a job tomorrow, except there may not be a job available for you tomorrow. I said, if you're prepared to hang in, you might make it. Because the number of people who started when we started, who are no longer in the business, is so many more than the ones who have remained. And the ones who remain obviously get less and less each year. And it's not because they're dying, it's because I can't live like this anymore.
Yeah.
We're just hanging in because we love it, because it's been good to us. The business has been good to us. I have been incredibly lucky.
But you're very talented.
It's not a question of talent. I'm not saying that. You've still got to be lucky, because if the biggest film role in the world came on my doorstep tomorrow, I'd have to say, I'm under contract. There's nothing I can do. Bye-bye. And that happens to people every day. Every day they've taken a terrible job because they needed the money. Something big comes along and they go, there is nothing I can do. You've got to be lucky.
My advice for young ones, especially in musical theatre, is not to pigeonhole yourself. Don't say, I'm only going to do this, or I'm only going to train to sing a specific way. I've had so many opportunities by going, kind of, whether it was variety television or singing in a jazz bar or singing operetta. I think and it's the same with the dance. Go and do a tap class, go and do a jazz class, go and maybe, learn the piano, learn an instrument. There's all those shows, Come From Away, all those ones that they have to play. I mean, learn as many skills as you can so that when they say, can you do that in an audition, you don't freeze and that'd be my advice.
That's great advice.
And I think that's what's...
I shouldn't have chosen horse riding though, should I? For the theatre.
But not for the theatre.
Hardly ever been called on to.
It's a funny old business, and we've been in it. I think probably the same amount of time. What I do, I when I'm not in a big budget musical or something like that, I do create my own projects.
Yeah.
I've done that too.
We do that.
That helps a lot.
Right, or you keep being active in it rather than...
And you keep visible,
Keep visible.
Yeah.
Being visible is very important.
And now you can both do a questionnaire if you like, or you can put it together, but a question to ask the next guest. We don't know, it could be anyone.
Oh, you ask yours first while I think about one.
I just think it's interesting to know what people expect to get from the industry when they come in. Why did you join, and how old were you when you made that decision?
Yeah, it's a really hard question because if I knew the guest, it'd probably.
Well, it might be one of your fellow co-stars on Sister Act, or it could be a sister, or but it might not be. But
no, if it was a young person, or or someone that's actually been around for a long time. And as Jen said, for those people, there is a reason why we are still here. We work bloody hard. We're consistent. We take the good with the bad, and we kind of come back. I mean,
and they're not all starring roles.
They're not all starring roles.
Can't always be the star of the show.
And the other thing is too, and that's another conversation. It's age, it's physicality. I've gone against that all my life. It's 6'4". There's no way that I'm going to play Maria in The Sound of Music. Maybe The Mountain, but no. But you know what I mean? It's your typecast. It's and that's why a show going back to Sister Act is so wonderful. Is because we've got all shapes, sizes, colours,
ages,
everything. Different voices, all whacked in there in the melting pot, and it all comes out sweet.
And one final question for you both is there anybody that you think would be good on Let's Chat Showbiz?
Let's Chat Showbiz.
Can be anyone.
Oh, someone that's a bit of a Trevor Ashley.
Yes.
Get my boyfriend Trevor Ashley.
Yeah.
He's fabulous.
Yeah.
You won't get him to shut up, though. That's the only problem.
Well, he could edit.
You have to edit.
But Trevor,
have to get a team of editors for that one.
Trevor, I've known him, he since he was 15. I mean, he is just...
Hilarious.
Hilarious, talented.
Boy. So talented.
Extraordinary human being. And, I watch his career just... I mean, he has his ups, his downs.
Yeah.
He puts everything on the line in terms of financially to try to get to the next thing. I mean, he's a really good... I mean, not how much he drinks and has a party, but really good in terms of it's not even a role model, but a role model in terms of perseverance and going for what you want and not pigeonholing yourself. He puts himself out in all sorts of things, and I think he'd be a really good chat.
Fantastic.
I'll have to think.
Get back
to you on that one.
No problem.
Yeah.
Well, thank you guys so much.
Thanks
it's been a pleasure having you guys here.
Connor.
I appreciate your time, and so thank you.
Anyone, where's your main camera that I can look into?
Rory?
Hello, we love Connor, and anyone out there, I think it would be it's a fantastic podcast show, but I think a wonderful winery here in Adelaide, we could be sitting there with a bit of a little drink and there's a bit of nice, cross promotion of a bit of your favourite tipple, and cross promotion. I think that would be really lovely if you would get on for a little bit of a sponsorship.
Yes, I bet you know someone who'd appreciate a sponsorship on this lovely, lovely show.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in. If you want more episodes of Let's Chat Showbiz, you can follow along on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Instagram, TikTok, and even Facebook for all you oldies. See you next time on Let's Chat Showbiz.